Third edition of the Digital Health UK Market Report really picks up on the past couple of years. So through the core of the pandemic, through 21 into 22, obviously COVID is not behind us. Still many people in hospital, many people suffering from it, and indeed long COVID looks like it's going to become the new long-term condition that people and the health service are going to have to manage into the future. It focuses, as ever, on the NHS, its structures, its politics, the regulations, the policies around it, the various changes, the challenges, and my God, what a couple of years it's been. That's sort of one part of it, and then the other part, of course, as the name would imply on the tin, is about digital health and how that helps to deliver services, how it's grown over these past couple of years. So the third edition that's out now, completely revised, completely updated, completely rewritten, very much because of the changes that have taken place in healthcare, the changes that have taken place in digital health. It really does feel like, despite the continued challenges, whether that's workforce, funding, headspace for staff to cope with digital transformation, and of course all the other things they need to cope with, it very much does feel like digital health during the pandemic perhaps moved from those sort of teenage years into maybe the early 20s. I think some of the key trends coming out is that the uptake and deployment of digital health remains variable. There are some doing a lot and doing it well. There are some doing very little and or doing it poorly. There's certainly been a big increase in usage around, as I said before, we've talked about virtual wards, at-home monitoring, digital mental health, digital physio, rehab, increase around usage of apps and things for long-term condition management over and above what was happening already. But in other areas are scaling back. So, query GP appointment booking, lots of challenges for all sorts of reasons, not least not enough GPs. So some areas have arguably gone backwards from where they were before the pandemic. And we're seeing quite varied, from the research we did, quite varied investment levels locally within NHS trusts. Whilst there might be half that had some kind of budget increase over the past year or two, equally there's half that have had some kind of budget reduction of some size or other over the past 2 years. One interesting trend is, from an investment perspective, is that there was a real peak in 2020 and 2021 of both in the US, UK and Europe in digital health solutions. One could argue money being thrown about willy-nilly, dare I say. And that has scaled back quite significantly back to, in fact, in some areas, not even back to pre-pandemic levels. I think investors in the whole digital health space, especially the newer digital health space, are perhaps better educated. Perhaps they've learned from some of the mistakes they made. They realise that there are parts of the industry that are still a bit maybe Wild West, and they need to focus. Yeah, I think the stakeholder group's quite wide. I mean, I think there's a few core areas of people. I think, and we know this from obviously some of the people that have bought and benefited from the second and be back to the first edition. So I think for those investing in digital health, then I would think it's a fairly essential read. For those who are operating in the digital health world, so a number of the big consultancies, for example, again, an essential read. For large corporates, whether operating in the NHS ecosystem or the private healthcare ecosystem, to look at some of those market trends, to see what the players, competitors, players are up to, to look at some of the insights, data that's offered to support some of the trend analysis and the views that are in there. So that's if you like at the top end in terms of the big players that should be interested. But actually, if you're a startup, a scale up, a market entrant to the UK, it gives you what you need to know about the UK healthcare market. It talks to you about the different areas of the UK healthcare market, not just the NHS, but other areas that the NHS feels like too tough a nut to crack. And then, there are other areas, whether it's dentistry, ophthalmology, independent practitioners. There's a vast array of healthcare provision. It's a £270 billion market per annum. So there's plenty to sort of go at. In terms of overall healthcare budget, and obviously a portion of that being spent on digital. And then, yes, those that are interested in market trends in specific markets, in traditional markets,